we need you. And so please, even though I know sometimes it's hard and discouraging and tough, never give up.
Hello, and thank you for joining us for this edition of One Young World Together a Path series. My name is Neeshad Shafi. I'm the founder of Arab Youth Climate Movement Qatar and also an advocate for climate change and environmental policy for action.
Today, I'm so excited to have Cassie Flynn with us, UNDP's Senior Advisor on Climate Change in the Executive Office, and also she's a former advisor to the Prime Minister of Fiji as a COP23 president, and the founder of the crowdfunding platform IOB. We are so excited. Thank you, Cassie, for joining us. Tell us what's like leading climate change and climate fight from your home state in New York City.
Mm-hmm. Hi, Neeshad. It's so fantastic to see you, and hello to everybody that's a part of the One Young World community. I am such a fan of the fantastic work that you all do, so it's great to be speaking with you. Certainly from my vantage point, we are at this make or break moment when it comes to climate. It very much is like the Matrix. It's, are we going to pick the red pill or the blue pill? The decisions that governments are making right now when it comes to climate, when it comes to COVID, all have an enormous impact on our future. And if we can get these choices right, we can really chart an entirely new pathway that is more resilient, that is more equitable, and that is greener and cleaner for everyone on the planet. If we get it wrong, we also risk a very unsustainable future. And so the stakes couldn't be higher, but this is also why we need everybody to make their voices heard right here, right now.
Wow, excellent. Great to know that. So going forward, can you tell us about your new venture, which is Mission 1.5? We heard a lot of on social media. It would be great to hear from you. First time, you're giving a statement, and we at One Young World would love to hear about the Mission 1.5.
Great. Yeah, no, I am really excited about this. Mission 1.5 really aims to be a way to connect everyone to world leaders that are making these big decisions on climate change. As I mentioned, this is the make or break moment. And this means we need everybody at the table. We need everybody talking about it. So what Mission 1.5 really tries to do is to put you in the place of world leaders. What would you do if you were responsible for climate action in your country? Would you choose clean, green energy? Would you have better protection against Category 5 storms? Would you have green jobs? Would you have green infrastructure? There's a lot of fantastic choices that you can make. And so what we do is that on your mobile phone, you can essentially play what looks like a video game. And you can learn about all of these choices. You can learn about what actual green energy looks like. You can learn about early warning systems for protection against those storms. And then you get to vote on what you think your government should do. And so in many ways, it is the world's first people's climate vote, where everyone can have a say. And what we're going to do then is take all of those votes. We're going to work with Oxford University to compile these votes, to have some professional pollsters help to analyze this information. And then we're going to create country by country reports and put them on the desks of policymakers so they can see exactly how people in their country voted.
That sounds amazing. This should be the largest global poll in history on climate. But why did you choose gaming platform? That would definitely attract young people like us who are more into gaming and also bring a lot of awareness on climate change. So what was the whole idea of getting gaming platform as to convey this message forward?
Yeah, I know. I have to admit that when you hear United Nations, you hear climate change, the first thing you probably don't think of is a video game. you don't think of a game. You don't think of any of that. But this is exactly why we wanted to do it, because the gaming industry is 2.7 billion people. It's an enormous amount of people, and this is not just people that may be very serious gamers with full gaming sets that they play, but everyone who plays a game on their phone. A huge majority of us have games on our phone that we play as we're waiting for an elevator or waiting in line at the grocery store. And we thought, well, what if we could take this moment where people are playing games and help it to address climate change? And to say, okay, well, we know that climate change is one of the biggest challenges that we are facing as humanity on the planet? And how do we use one of the biggest sectors in the world, one of the biggest and growing industries of the world, and apply that to this huge challenge? And so we really kind of dove into uncharted waters, I have to admit, but I'm so glad we did, because it means we have something that can really speak to people where they're at, that we can meet them, when they're playing these games, and to be able to have them participate in a really fun and accessible way, rather than something that seems really distant or too wonky, to be honest.
I mean, it looks like very easy, but I'm sure it was a long process, because that's like was an idea to a functional product. I mean, how long was the journey? How was it like this idea of using a game as a platform to a final product, which we see as a Mission 1.5? What was that journey look like?
Yeah, well, it really it's been in the works now for over a year. And when I first had the idea, it's because, as you mentioned, I work with a lot of world leaders. I work with heads of state, and I was always really struck by how there really is an appetite from world leaders to really know where people stand on climate, because the decisions that they make are going to be some of the biggest, most impactful decisions of their entire lives. And some of these choices are really bold moves. If you want to change an energy system of a country, you really need the backing of the people in that country. And so that's when I started thinking, well, what if there was an easy way to help people feel better connected to this process? Because we also have a lot, in particular, a lot of young people in the world who are looking at the challenge of climate change, and it's terrifying. They're looking at their future and they're seeing, oh my goodness, every decision I make, from where I live to the careers I can possibly have, this is all going to be influenced by climate. And young people want a say in this. They want a choice over their future. And so with Mission 1.5, the idea was, well, how do we connect them together? How do we ensure that, in particular, young people can have this influence on policies that are going to affect every part of their future?
Well, I mean, I'm very inspired by all your action. I mean, definitely this will bring a lot of young people onto this platform, and definitely give a big boost on the climate advocacy. And I'm sure this will be a great success, and we are hoping forward too. And over to the COVID, we have seen a lot of discussion around COVID and climate change. And COVID put climate change also again on top priority from economic recovery, how we can go ahead. While it's all celebrating the drop of global emissions, what do you think the effect of COVID would really have on climate policies moving forward?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's really important that we don't get distracted by this drop in emissions by COVID, because we also had a drop in emissions after the financial crisis of 2008, and once things really started opening up again, we just saw emissions go straight through the roof. And so I think right now what's really important is that we're taking this long-term approach. We're taking this thinking, because the challenges that we see with COVID are immense and they are urgent, but also on climate, these challenges are not going away, and they are even bigger and they are more long-term. And so it's really important that the choices that governments are making now when it comes to COVID are they do have the ability to sort of put in place the building blocks to a greener economy, the economy of tomorrow that includes green sectors and green jobs, and things that really chart an entirely new path. And so I always like to think that while we have this immense challenge right now, it is also an opportunity to get things right. And we can't be too distracted by sort of short-term dips in emissions that if it's anything like all of the past that we've learned from the financial crisis, those short-term dips are exactly that. They're short-term. We want the long-term change and the meaningful change.
Definitely. I mean, there are a lot of discussion happening around whether this emission cuts would be long-term, but absolutely no. And like you mentioned rightly, Cassie, that this shouldn't be the way forward, right way to do it. And there are a lot of policy on place. And I'm sure that would be definitely helping a lot of countries to move forward and also to go ahead with this economic crisis too. So we have been seeing a lot of way of being vegan, going vegetarian, avoiding single-use plastic, and cutting own personal carbon emissions. I mean, do you find there are other ways of positively contributing in the climate agenda? I mean, this has been quite discussed, but this is something every young people has to do to understand that there are some short-term impacts and the long-term impacts. And on a long-term impact, where we actually fall into.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, this is a question that I get all the time, and I love this question is what can I do? And I think that, there's a list of really fantastic actions people can make in their personal lives in terms of what they eat and what they buy. And this is really important. Every decision from the clothes that you wear to the car that you potentially drive, the bike you potentially ride, these are all really important. And I think that it is equally important to be able to participate in the discussions about the systemic change that, we know that, when you leave a room, you need to turn the light off. It's really important. But we also know that we need to completely change where you get the energy to power that light. And so it really comes together. And I think it's really important in particular that while people are doing really fantastic things, with the choices that they're making in their lives, and this is really, really big, and it forces a lot of companies to start changing how they operate, which is really fantastic. They also need to participate in the dialogues around some of these big policy decisions that really can make or break our action on climate change.
Absolutely, you well put that. I mean, that would be a great message for all the young people out there fighting for climate change and climate justice. And this gives a great message. And thank you, Cassie, for that. We're just out of time, but if you would leave one message to the One Young World community on a final action, what would be that? I mean, we would be love to hear from you.
Well, for me, it comes down to 3 words, and that is never give up. The climate challenge is scary, it is hard, but we can do this. We can solve this. We know what we need to do. We just really need to do it. And especially for young people, we need your help. We can't solve this without you. We can't chart this entirely new pathway without having young people making their voices heard. Because when we look at every single time that the world has changed, young people have often been at the forefront of that change. That young people, they help us see what is possible. They help us see beyond the horizon. And this is so important. We need you. And so please, even though I know sometimes it's hard and discouraging and tough, never give up.
Absolutely. Thank you, Cassie. That would be a lot of inspiration to all the Young World ambassadors and other young people who have been quite actively coming forward for climate action and changes in their society, in the governments, and pushing their organizations to go beyond, given limit. And I'm sure this message will definitely reach out and resonates on every individual. Thank you so much. So please give a big thank you to Cassie for her time, and make sure you like, comment, and share this session. Thank you for watching, and take care.
Thank you.